and we are in for a treat. We know Dr. Joseph Chu. He has given presentations before for the Yoga Research Society, and when he first came here, he was interpreter for Master Fa Shan Ho, who is the Qigong master. And then after that, he gave presentations for our conference also. And through the years when I would call Joseph, I'd say, well, are you free to teach class or to give another workshop? And he was always saying that, well, I have finals and I have a thesis. So he's been very busy. Dr. Joseph Chu is board certified in physical medicine and rehabilitation in electro-diagnostic medicine, an osteopath, a pharmacist, see, I told you, and holds a PhD in neuroscience. He was Tai Chi Chuan National Grand Champion in 1993, 1994, and 1995 before retiring from tournament. Dr. Chu was distinguished as a clinical assistant professor at University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey and was trained at Kessler Institute for Rehabilitation. His varied research interests include chronic fatigue syndrome, pain management, alternative medicine, molecular biology of violence and aggression, and traditional Chinese medicine. In this workshop, you will learn the basics, stances, and movements. Dr. Chu will demonstrate classical, yang, and Chen Tai Chi. It is always a pleasure to have Dr. Joseph Chu with us.
Good morning. I'd like to start the morning with a chant of the Buddha's name. Namo Amitabha. Oh, Namo Amitabha. Oh, Namo Amitabha. Oh, Namo Amitabha. The Buddha taught that basically life is tragic. And when I was a senior in medical school, I had the pleasure of going to a week-long retreat with Dr. Pratap. And I presented that dilemma to Dr. Pratap, and I said, hey, life is basically tragic. And there are things that we can't seem to avoid, such as birth and death, illness, as well as aging. Those are things, the 4 things the Buddha said no one can escape. And if we reflect that upon our lives, you can see it as being tragic, or maybe later on we'll see it a little differently after the workshop. So I said, I'm trying to choose a residency. I'm not sure what I want to go into. I like rehab medicine. I like working with people with disabilities. However, too much tragedy. In rehab medicine, you're running into patients with spinal cord injury, with brain injury, with amputations, all kinds of pain syndromes, and it's just, life to me was too tragic. And Dr. Pratap gave me his usual one-word answer. Well, tragedy is love. And I said, Dr. Pratap, could you explain that? And I challenged him a little, and I remember we were over at the Sky Foundation, and it's been a very long time since I took a vacation, so I had cornered this guru, and I said, I'm going to get some answers today. And he told me, well, it's true, tragedy occurs, but tragedy is love. And I challenge him, and I say, well, what about this, what about that? I'll try to argue. He wouldn't budge from his stance. Tragedy is love, and so is life. And so I like to begin with this premise. In fact, I'm going to use the blackboard if you don't mind. Oops. Okay, so I said to him, life is tragic. I was very depressed. I was very sad. And then he said to me, well, so he says to me, well, tragic events lead to love. So I had to think about that because didn't quite get a strong enough explanation. Okay, so I thought, well, let's see. What are the tragedies? Tragedies, the main ones are birth, death, all right, aging, and illness. So I thought and I thought and I thought, and I said, well, aging and birth, okay, are inevitable, but so are death and illness. Well, what can we possibly learn about aging and death? Well, when we were born, all right, we need people to take care of us. And many of you have children. You relearn again the joy and love of taking care of another helpless individual. Same thing is if you are sick. If you are ill, disabled, or have a rehabilitation issue, what happens is that you need to be either taken care of or you need to take care of someone who is ill. So caring is an element of love. All right? So I got one component of it. But what about death? And death is sort of tragic. Can't see any other way about it. And aging is something that's inevitable. So after thinking for a long time, I figured aging and death have something in common in that these two events that are inevitable teach us how to let go. So to me, that's the second component of love. One is caring, the second one is letting go. And so the four events that the Buddha said was inevitably tragic teach us about love. So I accept the premise that tragic events will lead to love if you see it the right way. Then I said, okay, now I can enter rehabilitation medicine. See, Dr. Pratap, you influence many, many people maybe without even being 100% aware of it. Because as I enter the rehabilitation field, every patient that I contact with, I teach this to them. One day, they're walking, they're doing things they've always done before. They've had 100% ability and 100% capacity to do everything they wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, just like that, tragedy occurs. Okay, whether they dove off the shallow end of a pool, whether they were in a tragic accident, whether they were just standing in the middle of Newark and a stray bullet ricocheted off a stop sign and hit them. Whatever the cause, a tragedy changed their lives forever. And they need to ask why. Many of them are depressed to the point where they can't do rehab. They cannot continue to try to improve their lives. But trying to have them see things a little bit differently helps tremendously. In the beginning, they can't accept that, but as time goes on, they begin to understand that, yes, tragedy can equal love. It brings out love from people and also brings love from them. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we have now tragic events requires rehabilitation. All right? And we started with life is tragic, and then tragedy leads to love, and then tragic events require rehab. And today's workshop, I'd like to add one more thing, that Tai Chi, okay, as we're going to be talking about today, is rehab. We are all constantly doing rehab. We are all I want to convince you within the 2 hours, doing rehab. We are all recovering from something. All right? It's not just the individual who's in a wheelchair or who just had a spinal cord injury or who had a brain injury who's doing rehab, but we all are. We're all trying to better ourselves. We're all trying to improve. The fact that you're sitting here is a prime example. In fact, the people at Kessler Institute call us, the staff who are walking around, the temporary abled individuals. Okay? They may be permanently disabled, but to them, the day before they were admitted to the hospital, they were walking around, they were talking, they were just like us. Now they're paralyzed from the neck down, or have other sort of tragedies. And so to them, these things can happen to all of us, though we don't really think about these things. None of us have a crystal ball, but I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. So I'm constantly working with what nervous system I have to try to improve that. And so, as long as we're in an Institute of Higher Education, if you take these premises and you basically just take out the common terms. For example, tragic is here and also here, so you just eliminate the common terms. Rehab is here and here. Really, what you get, final equation is love. Here, now you have life equals love equals Tai Chi. All right? Now, love is in everything, but today, since we're focused in these two topics of Tai Chi and rehab, what I would like to do is to use this as an example of how Tai Chi, as well as life, can lead to love, and how that's correlated to rehabilitation medicine. So we use this as a model to bring out, so we can bring this home as a process on how we can review everything else in our lives to show that love can be in everything. Took me about 4 years to figure that out, so I really have to thank Dr. Pratap for your wisdom, and I'm spreading this concept to all my patients, and I hope it helps them. Okay, well, let's start with how rehabilitation medicine, we sort of went through these, how rehabilitation medicine is similar to Tai Chi. Well, there are two aspects. I like to talk about the musculoskeletal aspect as well as the neuromuscular aspect. Okay, the difference between the two is the musculoskeletal is going to be dealing with biomechanics, dealing with our skeletal system, with the functional way that we move about. And the neuromuscular system is going to be dealing with how our central nervous system connects with the peripheral nervous system and how these two entities are similar, that is Tai Chi and rehab. So there's also a third aspect that I'd like to touch upon, and that is how the Qi, or the prana, the bioplasm, how the energy aspect of Tai Chi also enhances our lives and also leads to rehabilitation. So, okay, firstly, have you ever tried to screw in a screw? Okay, let's all close our eyes and just imagine that you have a screw, that you're going to screw in. And just hold a screwdriver. It could be a Phillips or a regular, it doesn't matter, all right? And just kind of point it towards the screw, and you're going to screw it in. Okay, just close your eyes and imagine, okay? Now, if you open your eyes and you see the angle that your elbow automatically formed, if you were truly thinking of screwing that screw, it would form an angle that's the perfect angle for your biceps to show its supination, or this movement, to show a supination force. The biceps does two functions. One is flexion at the elbow, and the second one is supination. If my arm is completely straight, supination is very weak by the biceps because the biceps is all stretched out. If I'm really short, if I'm really flexed, there's very little biceps action, because it's too short. But because I asked you to imagine screwing in a screw, Okay, now the second instruction, that it's very hard to screw this screw in. It's really tight, all right? So now close your eyes and you're really going to work on that screw. All right, really work on that screw. And if you notice your elbow, it is the perfect, all right, angle. Your elbow is at the perfect angle. In fact, a computer could not have done it any better. Computer would do a worse job at predicting what the angle would be for your biceps to be shortened, for the elbow angle, for the perfect force. All right? So that in a nutshell is Tai Chi. Okay? Tai Chi is teaching your body the most efficient angles and the most efficient muscle lengths with which to react to external force. Does that make sense? All right, this is an example of what that feels like. Okay? We'll do an example of the lower limb and lower extremity later on. But now, a father had two sons. Okay, he told one son to go stand out in the middle of the street and gave him no other instructions. And then he told the second son, now look, I want you to go stand outside. And then he whispered something into the second son's ears. Now, both sons are standing out there for 15 minutes, and then they come back in. And the father asked the second son, the one whom he whispered something into their ear, how many people walk by with hats? And he goes, oh, that's easy, 12. And then he asked the first son, how many people walk by with hats? And the first son said, what? What are you talking about? I didn't notice. So basically, what Tai Chi does is that it teaches you to notice things about your own body throughout life and teaches you to notice things about your movements throughout life. Just as, for example, Dr. Pratap told me to notice not about hats, but about how tragedy can lead to love. And that changed my life, and it's changing the life of other people as time goes on. So being aware of what to look for, I think, is the most important thing that one can take away from a workshop such as this, or a symposium. Rather than trying to learn specific things that you can practice, and we're going to give you that today as well, but try to take away a process, take away a way of thinking which could change the way you see life, the universe, and any problems that you may have, to re-look at it from another angle to see that the problem is really a solution. And Tai Chi and rehabilitation medicine is the science and art of turning dilemmas into solutions. So in that way, they're very much similar. Okay, so the musculoskeletal comparison I have is with the screw, okay, and with your stances. For example, in the Chen style Tai Chi, okay, took me the longest time when I was first learning Chen style. That my teacher would tell me, every time I get into a stance, oh no, that's wrong. Here, you correct me. And oh no, that's wrong. That's correct me. You correct me for years and years. And then I finally realized that the proper stance is simply the one which feels the most comfortable. Why didn't he tell me that before? Well, I had to feel that for myself. In effect, he did tell me, like Dr. Pratap did tell me, tragedy is love, life is love, but I had to put it all together. So basically, a Chen stance, for example, is one where if I had a chair behind me, okay, it would feel like I'm sitting, okay? Too low, and you lose a lot of the strength, and it's going to be hard for me to move out of this stance, okay? Too high, and it's more like I'm sitting in a stool, which is okay. Okay, Yan-style Tai Chi has it such that your stances are higher, okay, such as this, but in this case, you feel like you're sitting on a higher stool. But the rest of the body conforms to the fact that I'm actually sitting in my stance. I'm literally sitting. All right? So analogous to the screw, okay, example, this sitting example is what it feels like. Okay, how do I know I'm in the correct stance? Well, it feels like I'm sitting. Now, if my teacher was here, he'll correct me again and say, well, I feel like it's sitting, but you can feel like you're sitting and relax more. Right, so it's an ongoing process. It takes a lifetime to be able to truly sit, okay? So if you're truly sitting from this stance, then what happens is that you can easily move out of it. You can easily be comfortable staying here. You have choice, all right? But if you're never in a proper stance to begin with, just like you never put your arm in an angle, let's say you want to screw in, and you keep your arm like this, and you insist on doing it this way. Well, you can screw in the screw, that's pretty easy, but a tough one, you're going to move yourself in this way, okay, and screw it in. Similarly, if I wanted to pretend like I'm pushing a car, all right, now, no computer can mimic this, all right, you can take the biomechanic views and then put different mirrors on the joints, and you can just try to predict what angle the person is going to be in. But relative to my body happiness, my height, my strength, the predicted weight of the object, whether or not it's on an incline, okay? If it's a heavy car, I'm going to get into a stance which is going to maximally allow me to push something heavy. If it's pretty light, like a shopping cart, I can do it like this, and that's fine. And biomechanically, I'm still correct, as long as I'm imagining that I'm pushing something. So later on, the second hour, when we get up and we all do Tai Chi, whenever you do a Tai Chi move, the first rule is that your mind is on exactly what you're doing, and the second rule is that you're imagining that you're doing something. Okay, you're not just going through the motions of life. So whenever your mind is on doing exactly what your body is doing, it's called Zen. So you practice Zen when your mind is on serving tea and crackers, if that's what you're doing. Okay, you're not practicing Zen if your mind is on serving tea and crackers, but you're in front of the computer working, or you're here at the conference. Okay, that's not Zen. So Tai Chi and Zen have a lot of characteristics in common in that when you're doing Tai Chi, your mind is on exactly what you're doing, and that doing has to mimic where you're feeling what it feels like to do an act. Okay, whether it be a push, okay, a pull, a press, okay, just like screwing that screw in, all right? You can imagine and what that feels like. And if somebody had told me this before, it might have been a little easier for me to grasp a lot of the movements, because basically, if they told me that you really had to feel like you're pushing rather than just doing this, well, then the rest of my body will come into the act as well. See, if I just do the acting and pushing, it would just be like this, okay? Teacher will correct you, say, oh no, your hands have to be a little more flowing. What does that mean? Well, now, feel like you're pushing something really heavy, like a heavy ball away. Okay, now the rest of my body has to get into the act. I want to recruit my legs. I want to recruit my back. I want to arch my back like a cat so I can really get that push out, okay? Just like if that screw is like really tight, you're going to have to really optimize, okay? Optimize, notice that word, optimize the angle of my elbow. Not make it too straight, too curved or too straight, but it has to be optimal, right in the middle. All right? A mistake in Chen-style Tai Chi is thinking, well, the lower you sit, the better, right? For example, well, what if I just come down like this? All right? Well, it doesn't make sense, but because at this point, I'm sunk too low. I've flexed my elbow for that screw. All right? There's an optimal angle. So you don't want to go too low, you don't want to go too high, but there's an optimal for my body happiness, my strength, my level of training, and for the comfort and elasticity of the form. By elasticity, what I mean is that there's two elements to rehab as well as Tai Chi that you have to be aware of when you're observing a patient and writing the rehab prescription. One thing is stability, and the second is mobility. And these two things are sort of diametrically opposed, if you think of it. Stability is your ability to stay in one spot. Okay? There are dynamic as well as static standing exercises. And we're going to be doing one later on. And the mobility is your ability to get out, okay? To get out of the spot that you're in. So stability and mobility are diametrically opposed like yin and yang. However, they must work together. Okay, so in a particular stance, if my stance doesn't allow me to get out of this region of where I am, then that's not good. But if if I'm too mobile or if I don't have enough stability, then that's not good either. So you have to imagine the difference between stability and mobility, and those two have to couple together so that you optimize both of them. Okay, that's what I mean by elasticity. So you can withstand the maximum amount of force, whether the force be gravity, or the force be someone pushing at you, or the force be that generated of you sitting in a car and the car was struck by someone from the back. Okay, those are all forces that your body needs to deal with. And if you can optimize the length, the angle of the strike, and absorb the force or to neutralize it, you can do much better. Many times a patient comes in, status post motor vehicle accident. Okay, they say, well, the car that hit me was going like 12 miles an hour. How come I'm in this much pain after a year? Well, it only takes about 12 pounds to break the neck. And what happened was their neck was in an inoptimal position when they were hit. Okay, what that means is that somebody else could be in an optimal position, have been hit by another car 60 miles an hour, and walk away much better because of the angle. All right, go back to the squirrel analogy, go back to the seat analogy, the pushing the car analogy. If you're in an optimal angle of all your joints, you can withstand a lot more force because of the elasticity, okay, the combination of both mobility and stability. Without that, let's say you were looking behind to see, to see how your kid's doing, or you were looking for a CD tape when the light was red. Then you get whacked, and your neck was in an inoptimal position. It was in a position of wanting to look for something, all right? So it was in a position of mobility, and therefore it had minimal stability. Now you get hit. Okay, at that point, what happens is that all the muscles have to recruit to prevent your neck from breaking. Now we're going into the neuromuscular aspect of Tai Chi and how that's similar to rehab in the neuromuscular realm. And in order for those muscles to guard that joint, they have to go into instant spasm. All right, for example, if I broke my leg, okay, skiing, immediately the muscles surrounding that fracture is going to splint up. And the purpose of that muscle splinting up is so that it can guard the bone, which has failed. So the bone is the primary structure to hold up the weight. If your weight cannot be held up by the bone, now the muscles have to come in. Now the muscle spasms within a car accident, for example, the neck or the low back. The muscles say, hey, we did such a great job. We saved this guy's life or this gal's life, okay, by spasming. And muscles have memory. The intricacy of the nervous system as it goes through the muscle has been compared to that of the eye. Muscles it's not just like a piece of steak. It's got muscle spindles, it's got afferents and efferents, thousands of them per square inch of muscle. Okay, every movement has enough hardware in there for absolute control. So, when this muscle, this sophisticated piece of machinery, remembers the accident, every time your neck goes to a certain position, like many months even so after the accident, the muscles decide to, okay, spasm up. And because of that, all right, it says to itself, well, it did such a good job one time, let's keep doing it. All right, muscle has memory. Okay, another example is if someone, sometimes people come in and tell me, Doctor, I can't move. Ugh. They come in and I'm setting them up for an epidural and I'm taking my history at the same time. I said to them, hey, listen, what did you do, to get to this position? He goes, nothing, Doc, I picked up a sock. The sock weighs about, a few ounces. Well, it wasn't the sock that caused them to go into have that type of pain. What happened was, it was that entire torso and the weight of the head that came with, doing that particular movement. But you take a deeper history, and what happened was this individual had a flexion type of injury to their low back, okay? And when they got into a certain posture, okay, the joints, which also have receptors that send thousands of fibers to the brain, said, uh-oh, here's that situation again. Let's go, boys. bang, okay? The muscles spasm up, and they're usually spasming up one side more than the other. And now the patient can't stand up because one side is completely contracted and they're in this angle and they can't get up. Okay, muscles have memory. I can prove that to you if you practice most people here, many people practice yoga. If you can learn something, then the memory is stored between the nervous system that connects your muscle to your brain. So in other words, if you took one lesson in yoga or Tai Chi or any of the disciplines, all right, after a week of practice, you're going to be better or more efficient at doing that one thing, proving that there is memory between the muscular system. If I was to teach you how to high jump, the way to do it is not to have you stand there and read about high jumping. All right, the way to do it is to have you do it over and over and over and over again, making corrections each time. And by doing that, your muscles gain memory, and it knows at particular angles, okay, as you're sailing over the high bar, okay, as each joint of each vertebrae and each joint of your legs and arms and your neck is sending back thousands of fibers of information, okay, per millisecond, telling you exactly where your body is to clear that bar. And your muscles have to react instantaneously as you sail over the bar, okay? Same thing with Tai Chi and same thing with any movement, all right? Let's not glamorize, high jumps or track and field or any of the sporting events. Getting out of bed is a dangerous thing, all right? Sleeping is a dangerous thing. I mean, we don't just sleep and lay there and go to bed. All night long, it's like a rotisserie effect, all right? Your body is programmed to prevent you from getting decubitus ulcers or bed sores. Only 2 hours is necessary to get you a bed sore about 2 inches thick if you just laid on there. Okay, so your body is constantly turning, constantly, your head's going in different positions. And some people wake up complaining to me, I just woke up this way. I didn't do anything, all right? And I said, contraire. When you were sleeping, if we took a video of you, we can show you in all different kinds of crazy positions, and you pulled a muscle, not in a sporting event, but sleeping, okay? But that's okay. I mean, it's, that's something that happens. The most ordinary things lead to some of the most annoying pains. All right. And then the third aspect, we've gone through the musculoskeletal, we've gone through the neuromuscular comparisons of Tai Chi and rehab. Okay, because that's really the only thing I have to prove for me to establish the second line there, that life equals love equals Tai Chi. And the third aspect is that both rehab and Tai Chi carry with it the ability to solve neuromuscular disorders. That is, okay, a whiplash injury, okay, you use a car accident, car hits you in the back, you whip forward, okay, the reason why your head didn't roll off and onto the dashboard is because your muscles kicked in, okay. The ligaments actually do not have any contractile ability. You do have ligaments in the back, but the ligaments simply are static. They hold the vertebrae, but given great enough force, you will create a fracture, okay. Christopher Reeves at Kessler, what happened was he was riding his horse decided to misbehave, stopped suddenly, threw him off, okay, and he used to say to everyone at Kessler, gee, I wonder why I didn't put my arms out. Well, he didn't because he was holding onto the reins. He was embarrassed, basically, that he was being thrown, and at the instantaneous of being embarrassed, the denial that he was being thrown prevented him from letting go of the reins. So he sailed over the reins, okay, imagine he was holding the reins like this, so that pulled his arm down, right? That means he couldn't put his arm out like this. He would have survived the fall had he just put his arm out. Why didn't I put my arms out? But he was self-conscious for a little while because he thought people were looking, cameras were following him, and he held on to the reins, holding on to that last minute that maybe he can, stay on the horse. But he didn't. He sailed about 30 feet in front of the horse, landed on his neck, and broke C2, okay, second cervical vertebrae. So basically, it does not take that much to break a neck. He had a particularly bad injury, but for us, if you were to get hit from behind with a car as you were driving, if you didn't have the muscles to guard you, your neck would literally break. And what stops that is what we talked about is the muscle spasm, okay? Now, if every time your neck goes into a certain position, you stand a risk of getting that spasm back again because the muscles remember, the joint capsules remember, okay? And when they put the two information together, they say, oh, here we go again, spasm. The way to relieve that, okay, is by doing, I teach my patients an exercise that's very easy. You just imagine like you have a glass table right underneath your chin. Remember those kids, like, you know, when you're little, or if you have children, they put their heads on the table like this and look, you know, begging for that cookie, all right? Imagine many different marbles, all right? Remember marbles, when we used to play with marbles? On the table. And what you're going to do is just reach out very slowly, grab a marble with your chin, hold it underneath your chin, roll it up your neck, and let it go. And you collected a marble. See, it drops down. Okay? Now you go ahead, you reach out for another one on another side. Reach, grab a marble, scoop it in, and let it go. I tell them to collect 30 marbles 3 times a day. All right? And I wrote it on my prescription. You know, insurance companies call me, what do you mean, doctor? All right? So, basically, neuromuscularly, what I'm trying to do is to reprogram. Okay, I'm reprogramming their muscle spindles and the connection between their muscles and their brains. This is very typically a Tai Chi exercise. All right, we're going to talk more about Tai Chi in 15 minutes, but first half I'm going to talk more about rehab. All right.
Doctor, just for clarification, do you have them reach in the forward direction for all 30, or do you have them reach as if the marbles?
Oh no, the marbles are everywhere.
Everywhere, so
Yeah.
you have to go all through the range of this.
Right. In the beginning, the marbles are closer to them, okay, because they're in a lot of pain, and you can't get them to do too much. Then the marbles go out a little further. Okay, these are all imagery exercises, and a little further. One patient did actually go out and buy a glass table, put marbles on it, and did it. I was impressed, but you know, you don't need to do that. The idea here, okay, how is this Tai Chi? The idea is that your mind is on exactly what you're doing, and you have a purpose, okay? Just like when you're pushing, you feel like there's a purpose. When you're screwing that screw in, you feel like there's a purpose to your muscle, okay? That you're giving the muscles, you're teaching them, you're re-educating muscles to accept this whiplash sensation, this whiplash motion, and not spasm up. You're reteaching the muscles to let go of the trauma, to forget about what had happened. All right? Now, this could apply to a multitude of situations. Trauma in childhood, any kind of abuse, okay? Any kind of situations where your body was put into a situation that it didn't want to be in, all right? The muscles themselves have memory such that if the similar thing happens, similar stimulus, but not the similar intent, but similar stimulus occurs, your muscle will go into spasm and it'll trigger, okay, it'll trigger literally the same stressors which one felt as in the past, okay, post-traumatic stress disorder. Similar ways for desensitization can be used for that. So I would teach my whiplash patients to do this particular exercise or other exercises which I would design specifically for their trauma. Okay, this is just one simple example. So that they can keep their mind on what they're doing, okay, which is Tai Chi principle, and be able to re-educate that muscle that it's okay for the joint to be in these angles, okay? The angle, for example, of screwing in the screw, these angles are okay and these angles are optimal, and that when teaching the muscles to move in concert with the rest of the body so that they don't need to spasm up, so that they can let go and learn that Tai Chi is love, all right? Otherwise, the muscle thinks that movement is hate, all right? Because it at once in its most tragic events, and we mostly base our lives on the most tragic events that happen in our lives, all right? So a psychiatrist would start out with trying to find out what the most tragic event that happened in your life, what caused you to split, because that pain was so intolerable that you had to split between two people. And a good psychiatrist, the first thing what good psychologists they do is to bring the two halves together. Otherwise, you can't start therapy. You can't even start. All right. Many times I'm I'm on the bedside of a patient in rehabilitation, and I have to act both as psychiatrist, rehab doctor, internal medicine doctor, and so forth, because they're in such denial, okay, that you must bring them together and then start the therapeutic process, both spiritually, emotionally, physically, as well as medically. Okay, so now that therapeutic process for your muscle helps it to forget what had happened, or you don't have to forget, you can forgive. All right, forgive is good enough, and that movement, the dynamics, is very very helpful. So therein there's the neuromuscular similarities, and then one more similarities that I mentioned, the 3 similarities between Tai Chi and rehab, and the third one is the conditioning, okay, and movement in general. Okay, conditioning exercises involve movement, getting you into better shape. In the Chinese realm or in the Oriental realm, we talk about Qi or prana. We talk about the bioenergy, which can be developed from doing exercises such as Tai Chi, because it incorporates breathing, it incorporates movement, and it incorporates mind focus. So by increasing energy, which is another goal of rehabilitation medicine, in that way they're also similar. Okay, now I'd like to start going into more Tai Chi. Okay, we went through rehab, now I want to talk more about Tai Chi, and then finally we'll summarize it up and do some demonstrations, and we're all going to get up and do some Tai Chi. Okay, there's 3 axes which go through our body that are important. Okay, and I'll explain why they're important in a second. One axis goes through my belly button, goes out the back. Okay, that axis allows me to rotate this way, you see? So axis goes through here, and it allows for this movement. Another axis goes through the head, okay, goes down into the ground through my tailbone, and allows me to do this motion. Okay, I'm rotating about the axis. And then another axis goes through the side, okay, and allows me to do this, okay, allows me to do this type of motion. Okay, well, why are these 3 axes so important? And these 3 axes are key in beginning Tai Chi. You must realize, be aware of these 3 axes. It's because when you walk, okay, the determinants of gait involve these 3 axes. If one of the axes are frozen, okay, as it sometimes happens in diseases like ankylosing spondylitis, deflection, extension is missing. If you have a tight hamstring, if you have sacroiliac joint disease, if you have muscle spasm on one side of the paraspinal but not the other, okay, it can impede or hamper or completely stop one axis of motion. You have what's called an antalgic or painful gait. All right, you'll probably see people like, if your gait doesn't look quite right, one of the axes is wrong and needs to be diagnosed and treated. Okay, using physical therapy, using a proper prescription, using manual medicine, osteopathic manipulation, whatever you need to do to get that axis to move. Well, Tai Chi naturally incorporates all 3 axes, all right, so that each time you move, you do Tai Chi, you are conjointly working all 3 axes so that all 3 axes work together, and the result is not only health, but self-defense. Okay, so at this point, I'd like everyone to stand up. All right, let's just shake ourselves out. And this is not a sitting down workshop. We're actually going to work. Okay, we're going to do an exercise called standing pole. Okay, you're going to stand like a tree. Let me just give you a little history of this particular exercise. If we were very young, if I was teaching 6 and 7-year-olds, back in China, what would I have them do is hold one of those big ceramic urns, all right, and they would pick it up like this, and they'd put it on their legs like that. And then as they progressed, I'll put more and more water or sand in there. Okay, and then we just hold the posture like this. Okay, this is called a horse stance. But for us, since we're no longer 6 or 7, unfortunately, and you can do this exercise simply by keeping your feet shoulders width apart, okay? And you're going to imagine a tree in front of you, and you're going to be hugging a tree. All right, now I'm going to introduce to you a very good friend of mine and sparring partner, Greg Penny, Okay, Greg Penny is from Hua Mountain Kung Fu Academy, and Greg and I have known each other for many years and trained together. So he's going to be going out into the audience and trying to correct and answer questions on a more private level. All right. But at this point, we're going to do the standing pole, which is keeping your feet about shoulders width apart, feet pointing forward. Okay. You're going to pretend like there's a tree in front of you, and you're hugging a tree, basically. And the idea is to keep the knees slightly bent. Okay. Now, the most important thing is breathing. All right. If you're in a posture which does not allow you to breathe diaphragmatically, breathe with your abdomen, you need to correct that and bring yourself to a better posture. Okay. If you're comfortable sitting a little lower, you may sit a little lower. If you want to stand up a little higher, you can stand up a little higher. But the idea is you're standing in front of this tree. You imagine this huge, tree, whatever type you like. My personal favorite is ginkgo. All right. So you have a ginkgo tree in front of me here, and I'm hugging this tree. I'm trying to be like the tree. I'm trying to grow roots is what I'm trying to do. Okay? I'm trying to grow roots. I'm trying to become more stable. And as you stand here, you may close your eyes. You can still listen to me. Just close your eyes. And we're going to stand here for, about 4 or 5 minutes. It doesn't sound like a long time, but you'll see it's going to feel like a long time. All right? Try to relax your shoulders. Okay? If your arms really hurt, you can slide it down the tree a little bit. Okay? You can hold the tree down further. Or you can just put your arms just so it's touching the tree. Yeah, your weight has to be evenly distributed between the two feet. Okay, and you want the weight to be somewhere. If you can open your eyes for 1 second, weight to be somewhere in the center, closer to the balls of your feet. All right, so you're not tipped back on your heels and you're not completely forward in your toes. So this is the way to grow roots. Okay, now, as I said, we're going to be in this posture for a little time, and basically, as with a static. This is called static standing balance, by the way. As with a static posture in yoga, whatever keeps you, from holding the posture as long as you want it to, so you're going to look inward, listen to the messages that are coming out. A part of you is rebelling, saying, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's Sunday morning, but you're here, all right? You're in this posture, and basically, whatever gets you out of this posture, all right, before the time that you set for yourself, that is also the obstacle that stands in your way for doing whatever you wanted to do in your life. All right? So unless you have severe back pain, you can just raise your hand or sit down or, stand up. But otherwise, whatever gets you out of this particular stance, you have to sort of examine that. So you're trying to clear your mind. You can focus on your breathing, and you're focusing on your stance, just the balance. What does it feel like to stand in this particular posture? What does a tree feel like that's in front of you that you have your arm around? All right? A tree stands there for years and years. You come back, you think it's going to fall down, it just got bigger. Your tongue should be on the roof of your mouth, right in front of the teeth, your front teeth. So your tongue should be up. And you're focused inward. This is the first exercise in Tai Chi, to feel your balance. Is your balance evenly distributed between two legs? Do you feel like you're too forward or too backward? Is all the weight sunk down right into your feet? Imagine someone coming to your side and trying to challenge your balance a little bit from the side. All right, someone trying to just move you out of your stance from the right, then from the left. Someone pushing you a little bit from the front, or from the back? Do you feel stable? Okay, challenge yourself a little bit. Now take the sensation and stability of this stance into your everyday life. Okay? So now you're feeling and sensing the stability of your stance. And next time someone is trying to challenge your idea, you don't literally have to go into this stance, you might scare them. But you're going to carry this sensation of what this stance feels like. Okay, and this is your roots, basically. Okay, this sensation of rooting, okay, like the tree with roots, sensation of rooting is what's going to carry over into the rest of the Tai Chi exercises today, and hopefully will carry over into all aspects of your life. If your arm is sore, it's okay. You can just slide it down to the bottom of the tree. All right. If you feel okay, then you can keep it up. Breathing is diaphragmatic. Okay, try to use your abdomen to breathe as much as possible. And if you feel like you're having difficulty breathing with your stomach, with your abdomen, you may want to adjust your stance by standing up a little bit, a little higher. Your knees may be bent too much. You're breathing in and out through your nose. And you're focused inward. And see what comes up for you, okay, emotionally, mentally. See what's the voice that comes in and says, stand up, put your arms down. Okay, that's the same voice that talks to you when you have a goal and says, you can't do this. It's the same exact voice. So by counteracting that, by fighting against it, you not only get to know the voice that tells you not to do what you want to do, what you know is right, but also you get to know, more importantly, the voice that talks to that voice and says, yes, I can. All right, this is the first static standing exercise. We're just going to go for another minute. And Greg is just making his way around the crowd and trying to correct as many people as he can. Okay, if you're going to try this exercise at home, when you do this, make sure that you have some protected time, that at least 5 minutes or 10 minutes, however long you decide to do this exercise. Do not watch TV or listen to the news or read the newspaper while you're doing this, sort of defeats the purpose. And you should not be in a position where you need to talk or someone's going to come and disturb you. It's meditation. This is standing meditation. Try to notice what part of your body holds tension. All right? Try to consciously relax that part of the body, because that's also the part of the body that's probably going to be the most vulnerable for you. Most weakest, where the area where you had previous injuries, where you have your muscle was still holding on to old traumas. Try to notice that. At this point, don't try to resolve it. Just notice it. Okay, this is the area where it's going to be injured first if you're going to have an injury at all. So this is a good time to look through inside your body and look for any weaknesses, any intuitions that may come up. Edgar Cayce teaches inward introspection and self-diagnosis. So when you become good enough at looking inward, you should be able to not only diagnose yourself, but someone else too. Because if you meet someone with a particular pain, you may feel it in yourself. Okay, so we're going to end this exercise, and you can open your eyes. You do so by just pointing your palms downward, bringing it down, bring it to your dantian, or your energy center. Stand up completely straight, and bring one leg in. Okay, and relax. Well, how was that? Okay, so that's the first exercise for Tai Chi. Okay, feeling your own balance. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the stage, and Greg is going to stay down here. We're going to go through some stances, basic stances for Tai Chi, for the Yang form. Okay, we're not going to do Chen because Chen seems to be a little bit more involved. We're going to demonstrate the Chen form and the Yang form as well as some of the weapons. But what I like to do is go through some stances and some more exercises for the dynamic portion of Tai Chi. Okay, that was static, standing balance. We're going to do some dynamic standing balances. All right, so I'm going to go on the stage and you stay down here. Yeah. We're going to stand, let's see, facing this direction. How's that? Okay. Stand with your feet together. And what you're going to do is just dip down on your right leg, spread your leg apart, okay, touching with the toes, and as you shift your weight, you're going to now stand with your feet shoulders width apart. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is shift your weight to the left side, turn your right foot out 45 degrees. All right? So the right foot is now 45 degrees. Shift your weight back to the right leg so that you can pick up the left leg and just take a comfortable step forward. Okay, don't try to overstretch. Just comfortable step. And shift your weight forward again. Okay, this is your basic Tai Chi stance. So without moving, I'm just going to turn around and give you, Greg's giving you the side view. Okay. Okay, let's try that again. And we'll go back to the beginning by just shifting your weight back to the right leg. Pull your left leg back. Straighten out. Okay, so notice how we have our feet shoulders width apart. Okay, feet are shoulders width apart. And when you step out, you want to step out also shoulders width apart. All right? So now when you step out, you still have a shoulders width between your legs, so that if you pull this back, now it's shoulders width again. Okay, this is the most natural stance that a human being can be in. Okay? Because of the fact that you have side-to-side stability. Okay, your legs are shoulders width apart. If your feet are too close together, like this in line, I'm not stable going this way. Okay? And that's this axis that goes between from my belly here. I'm not stable in this axis. All right? If your feet are a little bit apart, that allows you a little more stability on a side-to-side axis. If they're too far apart, now you're not stable going forward and backward. Okay, so you always have to be aware of the three axes that we talked about and how to stabilize yourself maximally at all three axes. Okay, the axis that go through your head, axis that go through your waist, and the axis that goes out here. All right, so let's try this again. Okay, feet start shoulder width apart. Now this time you're going to pick up your left toe, turn the left toe out 45 degrees, place it down. Okay, now take a comfortable step forward with the right foot. Now, your feet should be shoulders width apart. You can check it by dragging it straight back, and you should have shoulders width between. Okay, so take a comfortable step out, but maintaining shoulders width, and shift your weight forward. Okay? Exactly, the knee should not go past your toe, because if it does, if it goes past your toe, we're destabilizing this axis again. Okay, you're going forward and backward. You're more tend to fall forward. So if your knee is right over your toe, you get a maximal sensation of stability on this axis here. All right. If you shift too far forward, you see how my knee is past my toe now? Okay. If someone pulled me, okay, I'm more tending to fall forward. All right. If your knee is not quite there yet, okay, then your center of gravity is too far back, then you're tending to fall back. So this axis is now disturbed, is now unstable. So you want to maintain stability on all three axes, and now we're trying to respect this axis. Okay, so again, your feet should be okay, so now we're here, right, with right leg forward. And same thing, you're just going to shift your weight back, bring the right foot back, and then straighten it out. Okay, so that's the basic Tai Chi stance. Let's do a couple of things while we're in those stances, all right? Remember we talked about pushing the car? Yeah, there's a question?
What about your shoulders as you're going through those different stances?
Okay. Greg, if you can show the posture going this way. All right, I'm standing, feet shoulders width apart. Okay, start shoulders width apart. Okay, you're going to watch my shoulders from here. Okay, as you turn 45 degrees, my shoulder is now pointing 45 degrees with the rest of my body. Okay, it's very natural. In fact, I'm just going to keep my arm out to show you where my shoulders go. Okay, now they're 45 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go here. Yeah, so turn 45 degrees, sink down. Now, when I step out, I'm going to step out shoulders width apart. My shoulders are still pointed 45 degrees. All right, now as I shift my weight forward, slowly, and at the same time, I bring my shoulders square forward. Okay? And when I bring my weight back, at the same time, as I'm shifting my weight, my shoulders are turning towards the corner again. All right, so I'm going this way. As I shift my weight forward and back, I'm rotating at the exact same degrees as I'm shifting forward. In other words, from this point going to this point, everything stops at the same time. Everything starts at the same time, everything stops at the same time. Okay? All right, so we're here. We're shifting forward and back. Forward and back. Okay, so let's do another exercise. And any other questions regarding, because this is very basics, we have to get all the basics down to make sure there's no questions on how you get into that stance and how you shift your weight within that stance. Okay? All right, good. Okay, now let's do this one. Again, start with your feet shoulders width apart. Just turn your right foot out 45 degrees. And again, my shoulder is 45 degrees towards the corner. Okay, I'm going to shift my weight and sink down. Take a step forward, respecting the fact that I have to keep shoulders width apart between my feet. And shift forward. Now, you're going to take your arms and put them out like this, like what we had before. Except this time, we're just going to roll them back, sink down. Okay, now you're going to push something heavy away. Push. And at the same time, exhale. So when you come in this way, you're moving in. Inhale. And exhale. Okay, exhale as you push. Inhale. Exhale as you push. Exactly, as you're pushing, imagine that you're pushing from your legs outward, okay? From your legs, which are your roots, all right?
Elbows should be sunk down. You can push something, you're going to be leaning this way. Elbows out. You let the legs move forward, back.
Feel like you're pushing from your leg, from your right leg. Okay? You're pushing forward from your right leg. Now when you pull back, feel like you're pushing from your left leg. Now when you push, you're pushing from your back leg. Keep your both feet flat on the ground. Don't move them off the ground. Okay, at the same time, you're really feeling that you're pushing something when you're pushing. And during this phase, you really feel like you're pulling something in. Okay, really feel it, like with a screwdriver or with pushing something away. You really feel like it. Okay, next time when you try to really need to push something heavy, you'll see that as you push, you really do need to exhale. All right, otherwise, if you're trying to push really hard, you'll explode. So you naturally exhale. Okay, a couple more. Let's see how we feel. All right, keep both feet flat on the ground. Do not pick them up. Especially not at the end, all right? Because you're uprooting yourself. The idea is to stay rooted, stay grounded. Okay, continue on. I'm just going to turn around this way, and then we're going to close up. Okay, when you come back, remember, push with your front leg, give resistance with the back leg. When you push forward, push with the back leg, give resistance with the front leg. Okay? Now, just bring your arms down. Shift your weight back. Pick up the left leg. Now, readjust your right foot, and you're back to your starting position. Okay? Now, one detail is that when you do this exercise, you can really gauge how much resistance you give yourself. You know, it's like the Stairmasters. You have this little gauge here. You can crank up, make it more difficult, or you can loosen it up to make it less difficult. Well, depending on your physical condition or your level of rehabilitation, okay, you can make this exercise more difficult or more easier. You can just put no resistance in there. You know, it's like that bike, just no resistance. Or you can tighten up the belt on that bike, and you can give yourself a lot of resistance going forward and a lot of resistance going backward. Okay? So this way, by gauging the amount of resistance, you can do yourself as much workout as you want. Similar to the bikes that you see, 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't sleep, and you infomercials. So those things sell for, I don't know, $300. So you can save yourself that $300 by sort of gauging your own muscles to enhance the exercises or to make it easier as your body needs it. Okay, so after doing that, let's do an exercise where we're respecting this particular axis, the one that goes through our heads, okay, the rotation. Okay, let's start by taking the stance that we learned already. Okay, now you're going to take your middle finger and connect them like this. Okay, right in front of you. Now, the important thing is notice the connection between the two fingers. Okay? That point has to stay immediately in front of, in my case it's a microphone, but in front of your heart. Okay? Center of the sternum, of your breastbone. Do not let this move, out of the center. Now what you're going to do is turn your waist. Turn. As far as you can without moving the hand out of your center. And do this slowly. Do so slowly, please. Okay, without moving your arms. Now, your arms look like they're moving, all right? If you look at your partners as they're doing this exercise, they look like they're moving their arms. But your arms really aren't moving. It's your waist that's carrying your arms. All right, that's another principle of Tai Chi, that your arms never move independently of themselves. Neither do your legs. Everything move together with the axis. Okay, now just imagine an axis that goes through your head, the center of your head, the Baihui point, acupuncture point, and it goes through and comes out of your Huiying, or the acupuncture point in the directly south of your head. Okay, that's the axis. And if you have that image in your mouth, and in your mind, and you put an apple in your mouth, why, you have a roasted individual. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, you have the skewer that goes through your head, down into the ground, and you're rotating upon this axis. Okay, having that sensation, we can go on to something a little more interesting. Okay, this is a very basic exercise that you can do every day, and it teaches you how to neutralize things. All right? Ooh, neutralize. Oh, Greg, can you come up a second? So, for example, what do I mean by neutralizing? Okay, this is something else that hopefully we can take into our daily lives and carry over. Okay, usually, let's say he was to push me, just push me. Okay, if I allow him to push me, now my balance is off just a little more. Okay, and I'm going to have to back off. All right. Well, pushes like this don't just happen in physical level; they happen in the spiritual, intellectual, business, emotional, any kind of level. People are going to push. Why? Because we are human beings, and we tend to do that. We want to find out where your boundaries are, where your limits are. So people will push. Okay. That's a rule that you can take to the bank. People will push. Okay, so as they push, okay, for example, with Tai Chi, I'm going to yield. As they push, I'm going to yield. And at some point, as he keeps pushing, I'm going to turn. Okay, so just turn. And then his force that was coming towards me is now working against him. Right, that's this whole idea. So, for example, if he was to push me on the side here, that way, yeah. Okay, a little harder. All right, so he can push, all right? So that's the idea. That's this axis. It's extremely important in the concept of Tai Chi, okay? You also have to think that if he was to push me and I didn't react, okay? Try it again. Okay? And it's a little too late, just a fraction hair too late if he pushes me, and then I hit him, okay? Because now, as he's pushing, he has time to gain his balance, and as I hit, okay, he's going to try to push me again, all right? So it has to be instantaneous. So when I'm teaching at this point, he's acting as my opponent. I'm teaching an opponent is that as he pushes the revolving door, he's going to get hit in the back. All right, that's what you're teaching as a sort of a loving way to set boundaries. That you're not to be shoved, and rather than taking a bullet and shooting back, that at the same time and with the same intensity. All right, so that. In Tai Chi, if you were truly practicing 100% Tai Chi and you hurt someone, in a court of law, you can put your hand on the Bible and say, I swear I did not intend to hurt the individual. I simply turned the intent back towards that individual that they had towards me. It's 100% self-defense. Okay, just remember this type of analogy. All right? Okay, so that's how this is important. Okay? So let's just do one more exercise and we're going to do some demonstrations. All right? And then we'll get up and do some more. Okay, so this exercise is called cloud hands. Okay, we're going to do cloud hands standing in one spot. So, Greg, if you would help me why don't you show the side, show the front view, and I'll show the back view. Okay? Cloud hands. Okay, so we're going to stand feet shoulders width apart. Okay? Sit slightly. And then bring your arms out, as if you're doing the standing pole. Okay, imagine you have the tree in front of you. Okay, first start by just rotating your arms without back and forth. Okay, respecting the axis that goes through your head down into the ground. Okay, just get a feel of what that feels like, of that sensation. Remember, we need the sensation of stability and the sensation of mobility. So you're moving within a solid stance. Okay, as you do the standing pole exercise, the first exercise, the static one, you feel more and more stable as your roots grow deeper and deeper. Okay, so to wave your hands like the clouds, All right, okay, let's all turn over to the right side and stop for a second, okay? Now we're going to be going towards the left, correct? Okay, we're on the right. The next move you're going to make is turning towards the left. So now the rule is if you're going towards the left, your left hand is going to be up, your right hand is going to be down, facing down, okay? And you're turning towards the left. Now when you get there, you're going to be now turning towards the right. Now the right hand comes up. So the right hand is up, you're turning towards the right. And because of the yin and yang principle, the left hand must be down. Now at this point, it switches. The right hand comes down, the left hand comes up, and you're turning towards the left. Again, the right hand comes up as you're turning towards the right. And your palm is facing you, the one that's on top. The palm on the bottom is facing towards the floor, or a little bit towards you. Okay, we're going to put one more component into this. Okay, we're doing this a step at a time. You're going to shift your weight from your left to your right. Okay, as you're moving towards the left, your left arm is up, you're going to shift your weight towards the left. As your right arm is up, you're going to move towards the right and shift your weight towards the right. At the same time, you're rotating. So you're going to be shifting your weight and rotating at exactly the same degree. So you're completing the weight shift, and you're completing the rotation at the same time. And
Keep the feet flat.
don't pick up your feet, especially at the end, because again, you're uprooting yourself. Remember, we're trying to grow roots here. Oh, hey, so if you were trying to plant a tomato plant, and you go to a Kmart and you buy this little plant, and you're going to stick it into the ground, you wouldn't want to pull the roots up every day to see if it's rooting, because if you did, you'll never grow roots. So just as with this exercise, okay, Greg's going to come down and correct. Just as with these exercises, you do not want to continuously pluck your feet off the ground to see if you're stable. Then you'll never grow roots. Mm-hmm.
If you're moving your
Keep
weight
going.
from one foot to the other, how do you keep the axis straight here? If I'm shifting, it seems as though the axis is going sideways.
Okay. Well, the axis has a purity to it, so that it doesn't matter where I am, the axis can still be respected. All right. So don't think of the axis as being posted into the ground. The axis goes from here to here. All right. It's not like rooted into the ground, so that you can't really shift it. You have to be able to shift the axis, okay, from side to side. So, in other words, you can do both. To answer your question, you can do both. If you're having trouble with that, you should go back to this exercise, okay? So as you're doing this, try also to shift at the same time. You'll notice that you can still feel the axis even as you shift your weight, okay? And the way we can prove that is by shifting your weight, keeping your weight shifted, and turning on the axis. All right, so you have your axis no matter what position you're in. So don't let anybody take away your axis just because you're in one, your weight is one side or the other. Okay, your axis is your axis. And as you practice this more, you feel the axis more and more. Okay, the three axes and how they coaxially work together. Okay, keep your feet flat on the ground. Don't pick up your heels. Okay, so here we are. And again, your mind is on exactly what you're doing. You're focused on every single movement. All right? Don't think about anything else. This is the most important part of Tai Chi, is that your mind is focused on the movement, on the every dynamic change that you make, whether with your weight, with your rotation, with your arms, which are following your waist. Okay, everything has to be dynamically and as well as statically monitored by your mind. It would be as if you were focusing your mind on a candle or on your breath, except at this point, you're focusing on your movement. All right, the movement becomes your mantra. So what we have is a movement mantra that you're focusing on. Okay, you're trying to do this as smoothly as possible, but most importantly, you're focusing on the movement at whatever phase of the movement you're in. And just as a mantra, okay, a verbal mantra that you're singing repeats itself, so does this. And each one, hopefully, we're moving closer to a pure movement towards God and towards love. Okay, the way you would end this particular one is to, as any phase, as you wait past the midline, okay, you're just going to close, put your arms up, press down, goes into your dantian to store the energy in, okay, that you've been exercising with, and then relax. Okay, if you would have a seat. Greg and I would demonstrate the traditional Yang and Chen style Tai Chi. I don't know, Yang? Short form? Yeah, short form. We'll do two different. Okay, we're going to start with the Yang style Tai Chi. I'm going to be doing the traditional Yang style Tai Chi, and Greg is going to be doing at the same time the short version, short form. Yeah. So he's going to stand in front over there, and I'll stand back here, or I can be on the stage. Would that be better for you?
Just so you're not.
Yeah. Why don't I go on the stage and just realize that Greg's going to be doing one style and I'll be doing a different style, but they're both from the Yang family. Okay, there's two main families of Tai Chi, Yang and Chen. All right, there's actually 5 families, but the two main, most popular ones are Yang and Chen. So we're both doing Yang style Tai Chi. Greg's going to be doing the short form, the 25, and I'll be doing the traditional form. And we'll move for approximately, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. Okay. Next, we're going to perform the Chen style, what's called the 38 form, because it has 38 postures. We're going to be doing the same form together, so I think we can both be on stage or on the floor. We'll both be on the floor. Oh, before we begin, the Chen form is going to be a little bit more vigorous. Okay, stances are lower. It is the original Tai Chi style. From the Chen style, the Yang style was born. So the Chen style is a little more aggressive because it emphasizes a little bit more of the martial arts aspects of Tai Chi. The Yang style is more emphasized for health and for rehab and agility. But both systems are good for health. Okay. reason that Greg's form looked a little bit different is because I'm ever cognizant of the fact that I have two mics on. So there's some things that I cannot do, otherwise the mics will be on the floor. Tai Chi has weaponry in there too. So I'd like to demonstrate the difference between Yang style and Chen style sword, as well as broadsword. Okay, there's two types of sword that we use. There's the broadsword, okay, which is really a knife. By definition, a knife because it has only one cutting edge. Okay, and then there's the straight sword, which is like two knives because it has two cutting edges and the spear point. Okay, so I'm going to go through the differences between Chen and Yang style. I'll do the Yang style first, and then Greg will do the differences between Chen and broadsword. We might do the broadsword together. How's that? Greg will be demonstrating the Chen style straight sword. about if we stand up and do a few more exercises, and we'll demonstrate the rest of the time. It's almost 1 o'clock. Do we have any time for more, or 12 o'clock? 12, right. Linda? Hi. Do we have time? Or are people going to be like massively exiting? Or
I think that we should just go up for a little more practical and leave.
more practical? Maybe just a review of what we did, or some more. Okay.
Review and then just like a few minutes review and then.
Okay. We'll be doing the forms as you exit. How's that? Okay. Question?
Sure.
Okay. Who's got the question?
Oh, I don't know, I just thought we should be time for the
Oh, okay. We can do question and answer. We're actually going to do a. Ma'am? Actually, my main practice is up in Hackensack and University Hospital in Newark. I currently don't have time to teach. That's why one of the reasons why I brought Greg is because he would have time to teach, and he's an excellent instructor as well as a practitioner. So, I would recommend him highly. So, if afterwards his card is on the table outside, where you can speak to him about maybe gathering a class for wherever you are. Any other, sir?
How do you use this in rehabilitation in classes or just in one-on-one?
Okay, for most of my patients, they're not strong enough to really do traditional Tai Chi. Many of them have multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, other movement disorders where they're just in too much pain, where they have spinal cord injury, they have significant weakness where they really have trouble standing up. I've developed some of these exercises, excise them from the Tai Chi form, keeping in mind all the principles of Tai Chi, and I've made exercises that can be done sitting down as well as laying down, but respecting all the principles of Tai Chi. So we start there. Wherever the patient can tolerate is where we start. Sir?
I have a question regarding muscle memory.
Okay.
I have a sense that the body has an inherent intelligence, much more than we give it credit for.
Definitely, yes.
The theory of muscle memory that's going to be contrary to one's wellness doesn't sound very intelligent.
Right, and that's because our nervous system is divided into central and peripheral. Okay, the peripheral nervous system goes from the anterior horns of the spinal cord outward to the muscle called the motor unit. Okay, that is inherently and necessarily, for survival value, separated from the central nervous system. The central nervous system is what's connected to infinite intelligence. Okay, the peripheral nervous system is more connected to day-to-day function, activity, and more or less self-defense posturing. So it's possible for the central and peripheral to be disconnected. All right, so in fact, we don't give the muscles enough credit. I agree with you there, but we can't give it that much credit that it can actually solve its own problem. But if you connect the central and the peripheral together, which is something which Tai Chi does, is a whole body exercise, connecting the mind, spirit, body, the central and peripheral nervous system, you can educate the muscles. Think of the muscles as your child, okay, your 5-year-old kid. You can educate that child to have infinite potential, but without education, left to its own devices, it can become chaotic as well. Sir?
You use music?
Oh, yeah, sure. In fact, we forgot to bring ours. We were just talking about that on the way down. Yes, music is very helpful. Music, your favorite music, especially soft, flowing music, will help you to coordinate all the motor units of your body to fire at the same time. Music is very helpful.
Jim?
Yes.
Over here. In doing the stances, I had a master explain to me that you should very subtly grab the ground with your toes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you speak in reference to that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, when you do the standing pole exercise, there are many different layers and aspects that we could have added on. But basically today we're just doing the outer form and the feeling. Okay? Yes, indeed, your feet should feel like it's grabbing the ground a little bit. Okay? Not like you're not holding on like for dear life, but just a little bit, the sensation of grasping the ground for stability. Okay? That does enhance the ability of rooting.
So you're actually pulling and pushing at the same time.
No, just a feeling. Okay?
Do you actually grip, or do you do it
Not mentally.
It's an internal
Yeah.
Another question. I was basically taught that when you do the Tai Chi, to focus on the Dantian. And you're saying now to focus on the movements. Could you address that, please?
Okay. The Dantian is the area where the qi is stored and is generated. It's a generator of our body for energy. Okay. If you were doing meditation, all right, Zen meditation, you would be focusing on the Dantian and stimulating it from within for it to develop energy, which circulates naturally. With Tai Chi, it's almost just the opposite. You're concentrating on the flow of the energy, on the movements, and it will store naturally into your Dantian. It's kind of like your car. You don't really have to think about energy being stored back into the battery because it naturally does that. What you're focusing on is driving. All right, so that's the analogy would be for me. Like while you're driving the car, you're focusing on whether or not the electricity is going back into the battery. That could be, it's detrimental, and you're not focusing on the Dantian. If you're going to focus on Dantian, we wouldn't have 108 postures to move on. So the principle is your mind is on exactly what you're doing. Since in meditation you're doing, next to nothing except for what's going on in your mind and your posture, you're focusing on your posture and your Dantian. So the Dantian is extremely important, but you shouldn't take like a magnifying glass and focus on it during Tai Chi.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Ma'am?
As I was watching the demonstrations for flows, it felt like I was watching a story unfold. Is there a narrative behind the movements?
There's a narrative behind every single movement and behind every single form. For example, if at some point Greg was doing this move, it's for example, it's me doing this. Okay, I'm tripping him with my leg, and it's this motion. Okay, and he would do it by, remember this move, do repulsive monkey? Yeah. So he would be doing an opposite move like this, okay, which you've seen in the form. So these are two aspects of the form. For example, that when I'm doing this, I'm actually imagining someone, it's much more complex than pushing the car at this point, but you're feeling where your partner's center of gravity is. All right, so
Tai Chi was developed as a martial art first.
originally.
As time went on, it just developed more to help. People still do practice martial arts. All the principles of Tai Chi remain for self-defense. Sink the chest, elbows, protect. Even though it does help chi flow. But they were developed for, they have poetic classes, and it's all for self-defense. It sounds so nice.
So when you practice Tai Chi, Greg is right.
Doing moves like
Right.
this.
You want to practice as if you're using
He
it.
pushes. Okay? Push hard. That gives me a lot of strength. And here, you can reverse it.
For example, when we talk about Tai Chi is solving dilemmas. Okay, both Tai Chi and rehab, you're focusing on dilemmas and how to solve them. For example, like in this case, he's twisting around. Okay, feels like I'm in trouble. Here's a dilemma. Okay, at this point, you want to learn to get out of it and turn it against him. You see, so you're solving dilemmas. And either way, you're training your body to get out of a knotty situation. All right. Yeah. Oops.
You had mentioned turning intent back to the external.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. For example, if he was going to throw a punch at me, okay, at this point, okay, his force is going this way, so he's extremely vulnerable to a push toward that direction. All right, for a little more, obviously. Okay, you can use that force to. Okay, you see this? I'll hit you. Go ahead. Okay, you see how you use my force against me? You see, as I threw the punch, okay, I became vulnerable. Okay, because I opened. Okay, yeah, because of my intent. Okay, I didn't have time. I would not have time to change. Okay. Okay, this is another change. But as I threw my intent away, okay, I threw my center of gravity and I threw my control out. So in Tai Chi, the first person that throws a punch or does an aggressive move is in disadvantage, not advantage. Okay? So whatever I do to him, if I initiate it, I have abandoned my center. Okay, my center. I've abandoned my center with an aggressive act. The degree to which I want to abandon my center is proportionally directly to the degree with which I want to harm him. And using Tai Chi is the exact same degree with which he can turn it against me. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay, if I threw him a very light punch, Okay, I'm still in control. There's not that much you can do. Okay, I'm still in control. All right, but if I do a really quick punch, all right, you see how I necessarily had to give up my balance in order to be aggressive? That's a necessary point. Stability and mobility are diametrically opposed. They're yin and yang. If you give too much of your stability in an aggressive act, you've translated the stability to mobility, and therefore you're going to lose your center of gravity.
Don't sacrifice your stability to get there.
How's the sword, like somebody to play in terms of chi? I mean, is there a difference in the way it functions when you have the sword extended out from your hand?
Right, so you're using the sword to practice balance. Okay, so you may not use a sword today on the streets, but basically the sword is an extension of my form. So that as I'm doing the form, okay, it's going to be the same stances, except now I have an additional thing to balance. My body is now this big. It reaches from one end of my finger, okay, so the sword string to the other, to the tip. So my body has expanded, and the chi has to extend into the tip of the sword. So if you're experienced in watching Tai Chi or practicing, you'll notice how good a person is by how far the chi, with the intention, is extended, how well they coordinate the tip of the sword, not just the end. Right? A novice swordsman will just hold the sword and be controlling their body, but the sword will be like disconnected. Okay, how much the sword with the weapon is connected to your body is going to depend on how advanced you are. Okay, that was the last question. So, sorry. Do you mind? Okay. Okay, there's going to be an answer and question session, right? There's going to be a.
You want to complete like your demonstration?
Okay.
Then we just wanted to wrap up a review with us so that we can take it with us.
Okay, why don't we do that? If there's any more questions, we're going to be in a speakers panel later on. Just hold that question, and then we'll answer all the questions. And then I'm going to be demonstrating the Yang broadsword. Oh, push hands. That's a good idea, but push hands? Okay, we can do push hands.
It's just a routine.
And then we're going to review. Okay, we did start 15 minutes after, so is that right? Okay. Basic push hand exercise is an exercise that I do with a partner. All right. We're both doing Tai Chi, except now he's going to lend me his body, and I'm going to lend him my body to work with to practice our balance. Okay, much like the standing balance and the dynamic balance exercises that you've seen so far. Now we're going to couple together. All right, two people who do Tai Chi can help enhance each other's own sense of my own balance. Okay, so what I'm doing is practicing neutralizing, okay, accepting force here. I'm accepting force and neutralizing, and then pushing back, turning his force against him. It's a circular exercise that the most important premise is that you don't want to do this routinely, okay? As I'm talking to you, it's a little routine. I'm just doing it sort of as a set movement, but when in practice, all right, I'm constantly aware of each movement he makes, and I'm adjusting myself to his movement. If he slows down, I slow down. If he speeds up, I speed up.
Occasionally, we pull the other guy slightly, just with 2 fingers. If he's overextending, he'll fall forward. He's not, so.
So we're not quite this nice when we're practicing, not in front of the audience, you see. We're much more aggressive and just challenging each other a lot more, but for the purpose of today, we'll be nice. All right.